Much like projects, it's important to note the difference between the different types of tasks that you're going to have in your system. And it follows pretty similarly to the different styles and the philosophies behind these tasks. And it's ultimately the active tasks that you have operating in your system. You have your admin and meta tasks that help you work on the system itself. And then we have our placeholders. And they all serve their own purposes, but it's important to know the difference because if you start to treat your placeholder tasks as you would your active tasks, then your whole system starts to get cluttered and you start to get to a point where you're not going to trust it. So let's start at the top of this, and the one that's probably the most interesting to me is the admin or the meta task. So if we look at this horizons context, so these are tasks that help me to guide the rest of the system. So in this case, for me, my admin and meta tasks are specifically geared towards deciding what projects and what tasks to work on throughout the rest of the system. These are tasks that I look at on occasion, and it helps me get my mind right whenever I'm deciding the projects and the different things I want to take on. And it's important to keep those separate because these are not things that I can just sit down and do. If I look at the first one there of help others get better at technology and live a fuller life, if I could just sit down and do that, that would be awesome, but you simply cannot do that. It's purely there as a reminder of a philosophy that I want to keep in mind throughout the rest of the system. And as we go on down through the system, I can see how that can translate into my active tasks. So if we go to, say, the learn category here, I need to Google a light bulb replacement because I've got a light out on the instrument panel on our truck. Well, that's something I can actually do. I can do some research on that. I know that if I go over here and I highlight the rest of these active working tasks, I can get a longer list of the different things that I have going on that I need to get done. And these are a list of things that I can sit down and actively do. So these are the ones that my horizons context will apply to. It's the ones that the horizon will help me decide which of those active ones to work on. And that's important because this is where the rubber meets the road. I mean, this is where everything actually works and happens. So this needs to be the core of the system. I don't want a whole lot of the meta tasks going on. I don't want a whole lot of the placeholders, though the placeholders are helpful. But these active tasks are where the majority of the work gets done. Now, if I were to go check out the checklists and the running lists here, this is where I start to get into the placeholders. And these are the items that I have just holding a place for me. They're not going to be something I'm going to actively work on. They're not something that I can just go do. They're just running lists. They're things that I use when I need them. They're just there as something I can go to when it's necessary or it's something that's required by another series of tasks or projects that I'm working on. So in this case that I'm looking here, the checklists that I would have, so any of my daily, weekly reviews, any of those regular reviews, any book lists, any business ideas, any of those are going to show up here. And those are purely there as someday maybes. They're things I use, as I'm saying, as they're needed. They're simply there whenever you need to go get them. They're not things I'm going to work on actively. I don't want them on my regular list. And that's why they're there. So the primary purpose of those is to have the idea that they may become a full-blown task or a project in the future. I'm just wanting to hold on to them until I can make a decision on them later on or until I feel like I want to use them later on. But they are different. They're not things I'm going to actively work on. They're simply things that I want to put into the system so that I can hold on to them and allow my mind to not be worrying about them. I don't want to be focusing on them and spending too much time with them simply because I don't want it cluttering up the rest of my mind and cluttering up the rest of the system. So those are the three: your meta tasks, your active tasks, and your placeholder tasks. And the ones that you want to work on throughout your day are obviously your active tasks, and the other two are simply as support materials, if you will. They're there to help maintain the rest of the system and help you keep your mind clear and you working on the important tasks in your system.